let's begin this interesting session by inviting architect Jwalant to the stage.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me. So we are an architecture studio where we work across different aspects of design, architecture, furniture, art installations. But today we'll be talking about just few of our projects. I think the time is pressing, and so mainly a lot of our studio work focuses on experimenting with forms, structure, spaces, mainly using parametric tools and modeling techniques. So this is a transportable gallery we have done in Ahmedabad, and the brief for the project was to have something which can be easily moved from one place to another place. So it has to be flat packed, and it needs to. So once it is flat packed, then we don't have a choice of a foundation and so on and so forth. So we designed an entire kind of a generative script where one can use the possibilities of materials we have in our context, as let's say a sheet size would be 4 feet by 8 feet, and the thickness of the material and things like that. And we created panels which were just made out of 1 mm metal sheet. So it's very, very thin. Like some of the furnitures are thicker than this structure, and it is just placed. So it's like a puzzle. So when you put it together, it kind of gets bolted. Everything gets bolted to each other, and then it just becomes structural. So only when it is when it comes together, it is when the structure works. Otherwise, each panel are just structural within their own grid. What you see on the floor as a brick floor is the same floor which we have inside. So there is no difference between the outside and the inside, and it is just kept at site. This is how it is from inside. So it's a mixed use space where sometimes they have art on the walls, sometimes they do shows, sometimes they do small recitals and things like that. So it has become a very interesting like a public space in Ahmedabad. What we didn't design for, which actually happened, was we never designed for acoustic in this. There are no acoustic panels, but because of the form, we have been able to do performances within this. There are concerts here, there are techno gigs here, and it works even with loud sound. So overall, the form has helped us do the structure, the space, and the acoustics and everything in there. This is another project. Now, the reason I'm showing from a very large scale project to a very small scale project is that none of this have been done using very high-end tools. They have been designed using, let's say, the most advanced parametric tools, but when it comes to manufacturing, they have been done in small workshops. They have been done using the traditional or the conventional tools we have today. So the idea is to how do you so that you have someone who is good at jugaad, but then you are designing everything in a very, very precise manner. So the idea is how to bridge together. So this was one project which we did as an art installation, where because of the cost we couldn't do, and this was 10 years back, 10, 12 years back. So we didn't have CNC machines which we have now, and even if we had, it would have been too expensive. So we connected 30,000 pieces to make this work. So there are 10 pieces we made, and in total there were 30,000 pieces which we connected. So every piece is unique, every piece is numbered. But what we have in India is the skill to put things together very, very nicely, very, very effectively. So more than using a tool, a parametric tool for design, a lot of it, we have started to use it as a manufacturing, like an in-between, like a bridge. So from design to build, there is an entire range of things which we do within the tool to make sure that how it can be built. So now, if the same work could have been done somewhere else, abroad, but then they would have done like 6-axis CNC machines and robotic arms and things like that. But here we are using what we have as our technology and do it. This is a school which we recently finished, and it's a school in a place called Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh. So it doesn't have any fancy fabricators, they don't have fancy contractors. And the first thing the client mentioned was that, it has to be built in Vijayawada. We will not have any contractors from Ahmedabad. We don't want to bring anybody from outside because, just to make them stay and do the entire project would have been as much as the cost of the project. So we built everything in Vijayawada. We trained the people how to read the drawing. We trained the people how to bend the pipe. And so now what has happened is that something which kind of becomes difficult when we start to do complex designs, we have made it like our go-to thing, that anything which is thrown at us, we are able to figure out the jugaad to make it possible or what we have. And at the same time, what we see after the project is that same guys a year back couldn't even think of doing something like this are very easily able to take on interesting works. And now they start to think what is the better way to do it, because they know the materials better than we do. So always our first few projects are difficult with the same people, but then it becomes very, very interesting because they come back to us that, oh, last time we did this, but this time if we do that, it might be better. So they are also looking forward to improvising themselves. So that becomes a very, very interesting thing within a project. So here the entire structure was a metal structure, which was then covered with ferro cement and then a turf. So when I say a tool, so for example, this was one large piece we had done a long time back, and the design is only this much, in a sense, because it's not very complex. It's just how you look at a surface and how you break the surface. But all of this is required to get it built. Now that's where the tools are very, very important. Nowadays, what is happening, I've seen a lot of kids who are only looking at the design part of it, they have no clue how to get it made. But the important aspect when we do it is how you are actually able to make complex things. So here, if you see, we have one of our interns sitting with a computer in the workshop. There are numbers, so each panel will be numbered in a certain way. There are joineries which are also very unique to each number, and then you start to add things together. So they are all built as components rather than anything being built as So it's not like an architecture that you cast the entire slab together. You break down the larger whole into smaller pieces as much as you can handle, and then you kind of put it together in a very, very short period of time to get whatever form space one is wanting to do. This is another work which we have recently finished. This is also an art installations where it's a 20 feet by 6 feet work, and we were so the idea was if there is wind movement and if the wind disturbs a field of objects, let's say there is actually a field and or grass, and you see it, and if the wind is moving, and you will see a lot of patterns happening, and when you freeze that pattern in time, you get a certain dynamic understanding of what that is. Now this piece we got made by the craftsmen which do Channapatna craft, the toys which you see, the lathe and lacquer toys you see. So here again 4,000 unique pieces are put together, and what goes to the craftsmen are very simple series of numbers which they send it to us in some places, and then we as a studio or a workshop put it together. So here you will see every element is of a different angle, every element has a different length, so all of this obviously comes from a very, very complex script, but then we try and make it very, very simplified is not a term, but very, very understandable way of communicating, and and that's how we end up doing most of our project. I think my time is up. Thank you very much.